I'll have people say to me, I went no contact with my ex-boyfriend, but he won't stop texting me. I'll say to them, well, you didn't really go no contact if you didn't block his number. You didn't go no contact. You might be low contact or diminished contact. Why? So why do we do it? Very simple. Very, very simple. Any and all communication from that person is an opportunity for abuse. They're using it to abuse me. And so I must reduce their power by being in less contact with them, or preferentially in no contact at all. Yes, allow me to preempt the rebuttal to that, which is sometimes we have to be in contact with these people. Yes, you do. We do. Some of you, poor souls, are in shared custody situations with people who are very, very sick. And you have my sympathy, you have my compassion, but perhaps you don't have my empathy. I recently read a piece on the BBC from sort of BBC News that was saying how actually it was based on recent scientific research that said that actually empathy itself can lead to violence and rage, which will not please our professional empaths out there. At that point, you would be saying, okay, let's just give you a very, very simple piece of advice. Let's go external and internal. Can I diminish the amount of words per day that I can hear or read from this person? If yes, go diminish them. If no, they're your boss, they're your spouse, you're in some sort of a relationship where you just can't avoid them, then we can switch. We have little agency externally. And then you have another problem in your life, by the way, because if you don't have the agency to avoid somebody talking to you, you have a bigger problem in your life than that person, which is there's no agency in your life. You're trapped in a power dynamic that really isn't good. You're living life as though you were in a prison. So please don't be blind to the power dynamics. Psychology is often blind to just simple power dynamics. Don't be blind to that. Do you need to make more money? Do you need to physically escape somehow? You know, some of you, maybe really young people, would be like, well, I can't. I don't have credit cards. I'm not allowed legally to just bugger off and leave. Okay, well, so then we move to the internal modality, which is we say, okay, I can't avoid their words. I can't avoid hearing them, and I can't avoid reading their words, which would be the preferred mode, or having the ultimate preferred mode is zero contact, no contact at all. Secondary preference would be diminished contact or reduced capacity for their words to reach you. And then we start to move into backup plans, far less desirable options, but at least it's something. Can you protect yourself at the internal level? Your boss is going to show up at 9 o'clock in the morning and be rude and snotty and say something abusive and unpleasant to you. And it takes them 15 words to do that straight away. Typically, normally, up until that point, historically, that's dropped you into an altered emotional state that's not been a very pleasant emotional state for you to be in. Can we start? Is there an option to create a discretionary gap, a discretionary boundary within ourselves between what that person says and what we feel? Can we start to go no contact with the internal dialogue of what that person is saying? And what I mean by this is by creating a space between what is said and being detached from what is being done at the internal level would be to look and to listen and to observe and say, this is what this person just said, and this is what I feel about it. If I increase the gap between the two, is it possible for them to say what they're saying and for it to affect me less? Not at all. Not at all. That's an unreasonable demand. But for it to affect me less. If yes, what would it take for me to be less affected by this person's words? Go inside your own mind and answer that question for yourselves if you want to come up with really good, nuanced answers that are individualized to suit your needs and your experience. Now that you've all done that diligently and with great self-discipline and personal agency, I could offer you a little piece of advice on that, which would be, it might be time to say, okay, I could say to myself something like, I am me, you are you. We are two separate entities. Your life is your life, my life is my life. Right now, at this point in the timeline of my history, of my story, I'm in a weak power dynamic. This isn't how I'm going to live my life. I'll never let this happen to myself again. But right now, I have to be here present with this person. So I can't switch off my ears. My ears are still going to register the sound waves, and my brain is still going to decode the nonsense that's spewing out their mouths. But I can choose to detach from it and say, listen, I'm not going to take this individual all that seriously. And I'm not going to take what they're saying all that seriously. You could do what is called a reframe. You could see that person as a little robot, a little toy wind-up robot. And it does what it does, and it says what it says thoughtlessly, with very little intent and very little consciousness there. And it just sort of rattles along. It's very unimaginative. It's very uncreative. It's very non-spontaneous. And that the recordings that it plays and spews out of its little speaker mouth, they're not actually really about you. They're about the fact that that little robot doesn't have ego boundaries, and it's got a very pronounced superego, which has created a very toxic outer critic